Walk
He-
that thing.
You gotta walk that thing, Doc.
He has
Boom, boom, ba-dum.
no skills to be able to play. Move on.
It's over.
Now is my mic on?
Now it's on.
I'm gonna need you to do your job.
All right. It's early.
If I'm sitting up here asking questions, I don't know what's going
Someone asked the question. Who's spitting out eggs?
Wait, how's that song go?
How do we sing?
Someone
Kirk
asks a
Franklin?
question.
Mhm.
Okay, I was trying to remember.
Why do you sing?
When we lift our hands to Jesus. You know, you
What
gotta do the choir
do it
version.
really mean? Okay.
Yeah.
Good
All the
morning.
Redeemer
Good
choir
morning. What's happening, family? Welcome to the show this morning. It is Michelle Bryant here at WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. You are listening to Say Something Real. And I'm telling y'all right now, I feel janky this morning. So I'm going to try not to do a janky show, but I am making no promises. This has been a long weekend, a long weekend, and not the good way. just a long weekend. But the weekend started. It was so promising because on Friday,
Yeah,
I got to see
yeah.
my man,
It was going down.
Lawrence Hilton Jacob.
It was going down.
We all went to go check out the play. And
Friday, Michelle, was it?
say what?
That wasn't Friday, was it?
No, that was
It
Thursday.
was Thursday.
Yeah.
But you know,
Well, it was
y'all,
Friday for her.
it's my Friday.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So both gentlemen, you also went to the play?
Of course.
So feedback, comments, thoughts.
Listen.
I seen him sitting next to Fifi.
Always. I gotta
He
say.
know what I'm talking about. I don't know why he
Always.
playing crazy.
See,
I asked about the play. Don't go down that road.
I ain't
with him.
even
Just
gonna go
ignore
down
him.
that rabbit hole.
Ignore
This dude-
him. Ignore
The
him.
play was dope, man. The band was killing. The background singers was locked in. So, you know, for me, I was looking at the
Musically,
play,
it
but
was
musically-
extremely well done.
woo,
Extremely well done.
Yeah, they was locked in there.
Debo, your thoughts?
No, I thought so as well. I truly enjoyed it. Typically in environments like that, I would have fallen asleep, but I
Yeah.
stayed, walked through the whole production.
Falling asleep.
Yeah. If I be still, I'm gone. I'm like the old man.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'll just start with my colorful people. My colorful people.
Oh man.
My people. You know, I haven't been to like a play like on that kind of line in a minute. And you forget how your folks
You saw some fits.
Oh, third and Hamas, man. It was
I mean,
some
you
murder.
know, not even the fits. I can live with clothes. You know, I like the spectrum. I like the spectrum. Some people was dressed like they was going to a pajama party.
Oh,
Some
man.
people was dressed like they was going to the black and white ball.
See,
It was sequins.
you didn't know what was
It
going
was
on.
sequins dresses and,
I know you saw
And
the mink.
headbands.
and pajama pants.
I know you saw the mink, didn't you? Didn't you see the mink? The
I did
full-length
not
mink?
see. I did
Oh,
not.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Was it cold enough for
You
me?
know who that was.
I know exactly. Who
Was it cold enough for me?
No.
Because I had on the lightweight looks.
It was straight fools proof.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that part, you know, but I think more so than anything, just we show up so wrong. We just, you know, like don't respect the play protocol. You know, the show starts at 7:30. House lights dim 7:35. We should be in the show. These Negroes falling through. They all out in the lobby, getting their drinks,
yeah,
taking
yeah,
pictures, doing whatever.
Yeah.
And then they fall up in the theater. Now the play has started and they falling up. It looked like somebody had just dropped off a bus of people. And all of this came straight in. And they fall in like at 7:45, 7:50.
See, that's
Hey.
why I told Jackie. Jackie was like, "Ooh, look at all these empty seats." I said, "Baby, did you notice all them folks out in the lobby? They not in here yet.
That's right.
I'm
Because
not
it's
going down there and moving up. and
Yeah.
somebody give it to my you in my seat. No. We're gonna stay right here because they coming in here.
Oh,
And-
yeah,
and
for
they
sure.
can, like you said, it was late as hell, but they
and
can.
it was there.
Right.
They was
right.
there. They
It
was in
more
the
important to get a
lobby.
drink and take some pictures.
Chilling and
Yeah.
and then the other thing, which is one of my pet peeves about Milwaukee, but only like Black Milwaukee, not everybody else Milwaukee, is that we always, many of us, not the majority, but way too many of us will leave before the final song,
Mhm.
the last 10 minutes of production. So you see people getting up, putting their coats on, they stepping across you. And I'm like, yes, the play is almost over, but it's not over.
Mhm.
And then there's this thing that we do at the end. We applaud,
Right,
each
right.
individual actor as they are introduced and take
Mhm.
their bow. And like, what are you hillbillies doing up in here? like,
Backwoods.
I'm telling you. And I always laugh because I'm like, where y'all going? That you can't sit for the last 10 minutes of the show. You're not about to beat traffic. Traffic in Milwaukee lasts for 12 minutes. That's it. Maybe 15 on a horrible day. Unless there's a breakdown or an accident. We don't have that. So
And again, it was a Thursday night, so it's not a whole.
it,
But there was the Bucks game. There was a lot going on downtown that night too.
yeah, but I mean, come on, fam. Anyway, so but the play itself, quality, it was great. I appreciated Lawrence Hilton Jacobs. We went up to the stage. They bum rushed the stage to say hi. And I will say this brother's 71 years old. People bum rushed the stage because Tyron Turner was on the stage with them. Just those two stayed out.
Mhm.
People bum rushed the stage and they were shaking hands. And, people was like, can I take a picture? Blah, blah, blah. And so Tyron did it for a minute. And then Tyron was like, nah, yeah, okay. Like, that's enough of that. I did hear, though, later he was out in the lobby taking pictures with a lot of people out in the lobby. But Lawrence Hilton Jacobs shook every hand. He took every photo. He got down on his knee on the stage so that he could be in the selfie shot better
Wow.
with people.
Wow.
And that just went so far. It just resonated with me that, to watch this brother, 71 years old, down on his knee. And he and I spoke. And I want to thank my girl Latoya Sykes, because Latoya bum rushed everybody like, clear the path, clear the path. We need to get to the stage. And so I got pictures with them because she took them. And but I told him, I said, yeah, I did the interview. And he was like, oh my God, that was such a great interview. So it was just really cool. And me and him talked for a second. And but I appreciated that he stayed and took those photos and talked to those fans. And like I said, 71 years old, down on his knee, just hanging out. So that part was cool. So the play was great. A couple other things that I did this weekend. And let me just ask you, bros, how were y'all weekends? Jay, how was your weekend?
Well,
This dude right here. Well,
my weekend was good. You
It
want to
was
know why?
good. Okay. Why was it
Let
good?
me tell you why. See, this weekend I went and got a billy goat, walked around the neighborhood and sung this song. Who Billy Goat is this? I need you to listen to
I want y'all to know this is based on a video that is on YouTube that has been viral.
Someone asked a question. Who Billy
And
Goat?
Stray Goat is in the community. And Bruh's got the goat. And then is it 4-part harmony?
Oh no. Who Billy
And they
Goat?
posted it to figure out if anybody knew who had lost
Oh,
their
Billy
goat.
Goat is this? Somebody hold that mule.
And so I just, I'm mad
got
that
that thing,
you had to
Deep
deal with it.
Who Billy Goat is this? Oh,
Like
no.
only black
Hallelujah.
people, as opposed to just posting a lost goat.
Who Billy Goat?
They literally put the goat up on top of it
And song to that thing.
and sung.
and it sounded good.
That
Listen here,
sounded
man, Johnny-
amazing.
Johnny
Only black
Goatmouth
people.
Jones, man.
Like we everything we do fabulous.
Yeah, that was Johnny Goatmouth Jones and the crew
Was it?
singing Who Billy Goat. That was brought to you by A&J Liquor, man.
Who have decided to be year-long sponsors.
That's it. You're going to sponsor me because
Sign on for the rest of the year.
Who Billy Goat is this?
Mr. DeBoe, did you have a good weekend?
Amen.
Great, awesome weekends. Again, as you mentioned, started Thursday and just busy all weekend long. Had a chance to partake in the homegoing of Michelle Pitt's mom. What an awesome service that was given them. Having Bishop Paul Morton fly in and Tim Rogers and different ones. And it was just beautiful the whole weekend. And I did not get a chance to make it to church yesterday, but we'll make up for it next Sunday.
Well, you claim funerals count as church anyway.
I count it all.
You caught a
you
caught a
caught it all
sermon
joy.
while he
Hey,
was
count it
there.
all joy.
Got it all joy.
Well,
Terrible.
speaking of funerals, so I had said on the show last week that my son's grandmother passed away on his dad's side. And so the family had been going back and forth trying to get the funeral arrangements. So they had originally said that the funeral was going to be this past Saturday. Okay. And then probably Tuesday or Wednesday, they flagged and let everybody know, nah, we're going to do it next Saturday, the 22nd. So I sent my brother who lives in Georgia, I sent him a text because I know he was going to the funeral and said, hey, they changed the funeral from this Saturday to next Saturday. So evidently my brother didn't see the text.
So he showed up.
So I'm sitting at home. I'm sitting at home on Saturday. And I don't have my phone. For people, if you texted me, I didn't bring my phone today. So I don't have my phone so I can show y'all. So I'm sitting at home and this photo pops up from my brother of an Excalibur hearse. And I was like, damn. I mean, this thing was fabulous. Like, I don't do Excaliburs, but this hearse was so over the top beautiful. So Excalibur hearse. Just that photo. And then, he sent a second photo going around the back of the hearse, before they opened it to take the casket out. And so he is at Friendship Baptist Church in Bessemer, Alabama. And so then he had got there early since he had driven down from Georgia. He had got there before the family was there, anybody was there. So just the funeral home coming in to set everything up. So he followed the brothers taking the casket into the church, and then they got the casket sit up on the stand or whatever holds it. And then they opened the casket, to kind of look at the body and just prep and make sure everything was okay. And, as a result of transport or whatever. And my brother was like, well, I'm gonna just snap a picture because he still think
this is the Jermaine syndrome.
he still think he had Derek's granny's funeral. And so when they open the casket, it's a dude in the casket. A little young brother lost his life at 22. And so Bruce had his camera up, just get ready to snap. And then he's like, who the hell is this? So he called me. He was like, what the hell's going on? Who the funeral you got me at? I said, what you talking about? I said, I assume you was at one of your friends' funerals. He was like, I don't know this man. He was like, well, Michelle. And so I said, I sent you a text, man. It's on the 22nd, they changed it. He was like, you got me all over here snapping pictures of the hearse and taking pictures of this boy. Wow. He said, but on the picture though, when I looked at the picture, I said, I had never seen this before. The man's name was written on the side of the casket. Oh. And it was the full length of the casket, and it was as wide in terms of the type of print as the casket itself. Yeah. His name was Nathaniel Deshaun Briscoe. Because I read it. I was like, I enlarged the photo because I was like, what is this writing? And I said, so you was at Nathaniel's?
Maybe your brother thought it was the model name.
Oh my God.
Right.
We laughed so hard. Me and my son was rolling. I was like, bro, I told you. He was like, this ain't something you text. You supposed to pick up a phone and call somebody and tell somebody the date of the funeral done changed. Listen, I was like,
that happened to me. Debo is my witness.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I go to the funeral, sitting in there, I'm looking around. I don't see nobody I know. I'm like, I'm here crying and carrying on.
He's a paid mourner, you
And
know.
I'm like, hey, but then I'm like, hold up.
That moment when
That moment
when you
transparency
realize
clicked in. I
something's
said,
wrong.
wait a minute. I went to talk to the head people. I'm like, is this such funeral? Sniffing and carrying on.
Hell no.
No, brother, that's tomorrow. So you mean to tell me I'd have been up here like they killed Corey and this ain't even Corey? Yeah, brother, this ain't Corey. I walked out like, whoa, okay, I guess I gotta come back tomorrow and do it all over again.
And that's what my brother said. He's like, I gotta drive all the way back to Alabama
Do it all over
and
again.
do this mess all over
Yeah.
again. Oh.
When he walked back in here, he said, "Man, you ain't gonna believe this." I said, "What?" He said, "Man, I'm at the wrong funeral, man. I'm down there crying and do around. You know, he's a paid mourner. You know, a high price mourner."
Listen, I couldn't believe it.
Well, look, my brother felt so bad after he had did all that. He got back to Georgia. He said, I had to go Google who was Nathaniel Briscoe. I said, boy, shut up. But I said, I tell you what.
Juliet Liddell said it happened to her too. She chimed in. She was at the wrong funeral too. So I guess.
Well, I'm glad, that it doesn't happen often, but to know that people are not alone in this mess. But yeah, it was crazy. My brother, he ain't speaking to me right now. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hey, Michelle, this is Dion. How y'all doing this morning?
Good. How you doing this morning, Dion?
Fine. I got one for y'all. On last week, Thursday, Northwest Funeral Home mentioned the name of someone that passed, and their funeral was going to be on Friday evening.
Okay.
Named David Green.
Okay.
I used to know David Green years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I thought it was him. I looked up Northwest Funeral Home. They did not have the middle initial of that David Green. So I called Northwest. I said, is this David Green? Is his middle name such and such? They said they don't know. So I called my aunt because he was close to my aunt as well. And she's retired. So Friday she called and she said, I'll go to the funeral. I said, okay, thank you. And I said, if you see his brother so-and-so, give him a message for me, blah, blah, blah. She went. It was not like she said, my David Green.
Wow.
So since she was there, she wound up staying anyway.
Since she was there.
That's what I'm just, yeah. No.
All right, y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Dion.
Lord.
Yeah. I was just like, well, I would stay for the service. Because number one, when I looked at the casket, first of all, that you came in Excalibur,
Mm-hmm.
I said, this was either a baller or somebody that's stupid paid, but that's hood paid.
Yeah.
Cause corporate paid, you're not showing up in the Excalibur.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hood paid,
yeah.
And hood paid could be good. You own the barbershop, you own, Bobby and Henry's in the bungalow. Your hood paid.
Never mind. Just
what? I'm just saying. I was over there Saturday.
yeah.
I had to stop by there.
Huh? Food still good?
Yeah, man. Because after I left, I went and gave blood on Saturday, and the nurse or the attending person, she was like, "Look, you got to go get a good meal today." My arm is just jacked up from the process, but so I was like, what's close? And I want fast food. I was like, I'm going to the bungalow. So I went over. But I was tripping because I hadn't been in there since Keon passed. Because me and him would go in there, or he and I would go in there, and all of the security glass,
mm-hmm.
the whole counter is now encased over there,
mm-hmm.
from the countertop to the ceiling. And I was like, I've been going to the bungalow since I moved to Milwaukee back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so to see how things have had to progress because folks don't know how to act and you can't safely run your business.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and how many people couldn't afford to do this? Because I don't know what that costs, but it looked like it's some type of bulletproof situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how businesses stay open trying to do that. So, but yeah, nope. I went, had pork chop, greens, yams, They set it out. So it was cool. You want to say something?
Say that's why you was knocked out.
No, because I ain't even eat. Like I just ate a little bit.
Uh,
Yeah, nah. So you had the itis.
yes.
Let me catch this caller and then I'll go to break. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Good morning, and thank you for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
I received my absentee ballot, and I was so happy to see Lena's name there and no one running against her.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's a lot of judges, and no one's running against any of them.
Right.
But I have a question on the referendum question. Some people are saying we're supposed to vote no.
We are.
Would you give it? Would you let us know, because I wanted to take care of that tomorrow and
Yes,
turn
ma'am.
my absentee ballot in?
I,
Because just like yesterday when they said the snowflakes, it wouldn't be that bad, this, that, and the other, and and all that. It was a good snowstorm, okay, almost like a whiteout on the way to church. You couldn't see where you were going. So it could be the same thing on the 18th. You never know what's going on. So I hope everybody get out and vote early, but they need the facts. And the Republican person running for the school deal, I noticed, and I'm glad you guys have a Republican on your station, that because you want to hear what they're thinking and who their candidates are.
right.
And they said they lowered the standard. Well, that sounds impressive. You know what I'm saying? But where they used apples and oranges, and who were they measuring these standards by? Was it fair to the other kids? I need the more background on that. But I voted for Jill because, number one, it seemed like all the Republicans have just kissed the ring in the butt and they don't give a crap about their constituents or anyone else. So let me know which way the people are saying. I think all of our kids should walk around with ID on them, but I'm not for them going in tampering with changing something, because once you start changing something, they might throw some other wording in there. I just don't trust all of that. So please let us know what the thought is on that referendum.
Not a problem. It's on my agenda for the first thing this morning.
Okay,
So
thank you.
yes, ma'am. Thank you. So let me do this. Let me go to break. And when we come back, because I already had that we were talking about the fact of early voting getting started. Hey, Alex, don't worry about me. Alex, like, hey, sorry I'm late, but I'm here. Good morning, fam. Good morning to Shelby. Good morning to Adeline. Folks I can't see because I don't have my phone, but good morning. So let me take a break. When I come back, we'll hit up early voting right away, talk about what's on the ballot. And if you're not sure about your polling location, all that kind of stuff, we will make sure you can get access to that information. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. So the caller who I spoke with before the break talked about a referendum being on the ballot. So yes, one of the first things on my agenda for this morning is to remind people that tomorrow, March 18th, begins early in-person voting, or you can vote early in person. Some of you have already definitely received your ballots and should be filling those out and turning those back in a timely manner. But early voting is going to run from Tuesday, March 18th until Saturday, March 29th. The election in terms of election day is April 1st. For people that don't vote during early vote in person or don't send in an absentee ballot, you need to show up at the polls on April 1st. A couple of things that folks are to be cognizant of: the early voting locations. There are six. No, I'm sorry. There are nine. There are 10. So you have the Zeitler Municipal Building downtown, over here on 60th and Capitol, the Capitol Drive Voting Center. UWM has the Zalazzo Center, which is off of Kenwood Boulevard, Zablocki Library, Good Hope Library, Tippecanoe Library, Mitchell Street Library, and then there are two other facilities: Washington Park Senior Center over off of Elite, 44th and Elite. You can vote there, and at MATC Building S downtown, 700 West State Street. So there are 10 options in play for people to be able to go and early vote. Capitol Drive always outperforms. Let's make sure that we do that. Again, our folks, our early vote numbers are always impressive in comparison to what other people do. And so let's even though that Trump Biden election let you know something was going on in terms, because Southside was competing with us for numbers, and I started smiling like something is underway or underfoot in terms of turnout. But wanted to make sure that you are aware of that. So the question about what's on the ballot, if you are not sure, you can go to myvote.wi.gov and type in your address, and it will give you what's on the ballot. So as always, I went in, I put up mine for the spring election, and first thing that shows me I'm in Ward 8. So hmm, I think Larissa Taylor might be my alderperson now. I don't even know, because it went between her and Lamont Westmoreland when I first because I got moved. The lines got redrawn, and anyway, I went from Lamont Westmoreland's district, I think, to Larissa Taylor's. But at the top of the ballot, first thing you see, State Superintendent of Public Instruction. Two candidates' names are on the ballot. Brittany Kinzer, Jill Underly. So let me just say something real quick about that race. Right now, and I said this last week, Jill Underly's campaign is just irritating my soul. I am going to tell people that you can look at both candidates side by side. You can figure out, where you land. But this lack of doing, any formal debates, turning down invitations from the NAACP and Black civically led organizations here in Milwaukee, problematic for me. Just not a ton of presence on this end. Now, I don't know what she's doing around the rest of the state. But I read in the paper her responses to being, chastised about not doing a ton about formal debates. And she said, well, I've been here and I've been here and I was at a high school. And, I'm like, hey, people need to be able to figure out where you were in Milwaukee and where you were in Black Milwaukee in particular. Because the decisions that are being made wholeheartedly impact not just all children, but in some cases have a disparate impact on Milwaukee's children. So that's been one issue. I just think that her campaign, Jill Underly's campaign, has not been run well to this point. But we'll see. Brittany Kinzer, who says that she is a Democrat, but she calls herself, I think, a blue dog Democrat, but she is being heavily courted and supported by Republicans, which means that she's not a Democrat. In terms of, what we would view as education. Uh, her commercials are in deep rotation now. Over the weekend, I don't care if you were watching Roku or regular TV, the media buys have definitely picked up, and you now every other commercial is Brittany Kinzer and, quite frankly, Brad Schimmel. Susan Crawford certainly is at play. I'll talk about that in a minute in the Supreme Court justice, the justice of the Supreme Court race, but the other thing about the Brittany Kinzer, Jill Underly um, race, so as you begin to look for mailers and different stuff, that materials that's going to come to your house, I haven't figured out financially how these campaigns are stacked, who has more money, if they're about even on their money. But I just think that if Jill Underly is not careful, Jill Underly going to be at the house. That's just, I'm sorry. People have got to hear from you. Um, and you got to show up. There's been no contact from her campaign that I'm aware of to get on any of our shows to talk to the constituents. And then when there was a reporter, they got at her about her lack of presence. Well, I'm busy. Girl, what? And so the next thing was, girl, bye. You're going to be at the house. You're going to mess around and be at the house, which means that our children are going to be in the hands of somebody that is heavily endorsed and courted by Republicans. I've already said why that's a problem, because Republicans are no friends of public education. They are not. They can talk about standards and, uh, uh, who's doing well, who's not doing well. But many of the policies that they put in place handicap our students in the first place, from how they fund our schools to the money that's been cut from our schools and only given back during an election, year, and a bid for the presidency by Scott Walker. Like, without fail, this is where Black history is being stripped from curriculum. This is where folks are forcing police officers back into our schools, and we're going to take over your schools. But the school systems that you have don't demonstrate that they're performing any better when you start talking about some of these choice and charter schools. So I just got a real problem. And then that she does not have the credentials that, of the people whose licenses she'd be signing off on. Her name would be on credentials that she doesn't even have for other educators in the state. But to her credit, her campaign has reached out to get on the show. I'm emailing them back this week to figure out if it's possible. But I will say this, and I'm being generous when I say to her credit, because I originally had her scheduled to be on the show, her being Brittany Kinzer, and her campaign canceled. And they didn't cancel in a way that said, we can't make it today. Something has come up. We got a conflict, but let's get together and get some dates and figure out when we can appear. They canceled it like they wasn't never planning to come back. I'm real good at reading between the lines. That's how they canceled it. Not, but here are some alternate dates. Can you shoot us some alternate dates? Let's keep talking. It wasn't that kind of cancellation. And then finally, somebody must have said, you need to get over to 860 and not just be on the Republican show, but be on everybody's show. And so there has now been this active, interest in getting on the show. But I've heard nothing from Jill Underly. Nothing. And I know the girl that's running her campaign. I know the woman. I'm like, y'all tripping. And y'all gonna mess around and be at the house. Y'all gonna mess around and find out. So, and the other thing, people laugh about it and talk about it, ballot placement, because it's a lottery that gets your name where it lands up on the ballot. Brittany Kinzer's name is number one. If I'm an ill-informed or underinformed voter, or if I only have been seeing a lot of information on Brittany Kinzer, then I am going to check the first name that I see. Ballot placement, your name on the ballot, where it's placed, people pay attention to see if they're going to get that number one slot in a two-man race or a two-person race. Justice of the Supreme Court, Brad Schimmel, Susan Crawford. Again, Brad Schimmel's name is placed first. Again, that's luck of the draw. But If you just going by, I don't know a ton about these people. I just got some basic information. I'm seeing a lot of commercials. He let a rapist out. She let a rapist out. He let a DV case happen. She let a DV case happen. You get like, it's a toss up. They both gonna do the same thing. They're not. They're not. There is a full and distinct difference between Susan Crawford and Brad Schimmel. Brad Schimmel is straight up a Donald Trump puppet who is going to exacerbate the awful policies that are being put in place at the federal level, or even just broached or talked about in terms of how our community would fare. No, hell no. Brad Schimmel is a problem. In terms of the judicial races, judges, here in Milwaukee County, I'm just, it's just not even necessary. But I'm just trying to figure out how many we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 judicial seats are on the ballot. Not one single one has an opponent. Not one. John Remington for Branch 6. Don't know who the hell he is. David Swanson, Branch 11. Don't know him. William S. Pocan, Branch 26. I do happen to know who that is. Laura Crivello, Branch 36. I know her. Danielle Shelton, Branch 40. I know her. Lena Taylor, Branch 41. I might know her. And Val Hill in Branch 1. None of these people have opponents. But the other thing, none of these people feel like they need to do anything to just reach out and say, hey, I'm on the ballot. I don't have an opponent, but I would like your, listeners to know that this is how things are going. This is how things are functioning. This is what, I've done to make it better. This is what we could use some support around. Just because you are unopposed on a ballot does not mean we should not hear from you. I'm sorry. It doesn't. It doesn't. Because literally all these people have to do is get their signatures and they got a damn job for the next 4 years. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. And there are some that show up at community events, but they're just there kind of in support. But how often do we hear from these judges? How often do you have a conversation? Do they help you have any insight about the criminal justice system and the process and how things work down at the courthouse? You don't hear from these people until they need signatures. And literally, as soon as they got signatures and their signatures are verified, they got a job again. And this vicious cycle just goes on and on and on and on. We were waiting to see if anybody would challenge Lena, because we know that there are some justices that still didn't want her to be down there. But she made it through this time with no challenger. Last thing on the ballot. And now remember, if you live in Brown Deer, if you live in, different municipalities, your ballot will have some different information. Wanda Montgomery is on the ballot out in Brown Deer. She's unopposed. But Wanda has been to this station. Wanda has, educated the community about what she's doing in Brown Deer, has held fundraising events so people could come out, meet and greet her. So just understand, I'm talking Milwaukee. If you live in a different municipality around the state, you need to check myvote.wi.gov so you can understand what's on your ballot. That last thing, which applies to everybody, no matter where you live, which is the referendum that the caller referenced. So the referendum, and I'm actually going to pull from a great piece that was done by NPR or WPR, because this referendum is about voter ID, period. It's about having photo ID when you come to vote. And so right now, in 2011, Wisconsin already put in a state law that said you have to present an acceptable form of ID when you show up. Photo ID when you show up to vote. So that's already in law. Okay. Now the sticking point became what was acceptable ID. So we know we had conversations where in some places, not just necessarily confined to Wisconsin, but you couldn't use your college ID to vote, but you could use your hunting license to vote. College ID, no. Hunting license, yes. If you scratch below the surface, who primarily has hunting licenses? White folks, white men in particular, generally tend to lean conservative or Republican. A lot of the college students, more liberal leaning, more progressive leaning. So, by virtue of which IDs I choose to accept or not accept, I began to make it easier or more difficult for a particular demographic to be able to vote. What Republicans are saying, and this is a Republican sponsored, Republican led initiative, is that they want to codify it into law, into the Constitution, so that it has a harder time of being challenged. Okay. And while on the surface, yeah, Michelle, we have been doing this since 2011. Why wouldn't people have photo ID? Well, let me be clear. Um, you can have situations where people don't have a driver's license and an ID card. What do you mean, Michelle? I got disability. I don't drive. I have a physical disability that does not allow me to drive. Okay. Um, at least the type that I have. Okay. Um, and I'm homebound. So I don't go anywhere. So I don't even have a state ID. But if you say, but Michelle, we can get you one. We know that costs have been prohibitive. So in some municipalities, they put in an ability to get that ID for free. But there are 11 DMV sites that you can go get one of these IDs. Only 11 of them are accessible for folks in wheelchairs and people with disabilities that have a physical impairment and need to use a wheelchair. In the entire state, only 11. So depending on where you live, even if you want to go get the ID, you may be physically prevented from doing so because the buildings are not ADA friendly. Okay. A number of groups have come out and said they are against this. The ACLU, Women League of Voters. You would, I don't know. I don't know if the NAACP weighed in on this or not, but we also know that it impacted Black folks. We were just talking about somebody we know celebrated a 103-year-old birthday. Somebody celebrated a 100-year-old birthday. I saw a post on Facebook. This brother posted his mom had transitioned, but they showed her sweatshirt saying, "It's my 100th birthday" or something like that. But there are some of these people that are in those age brackets. Birth certificates were not done properly or at all. Some of these people, like my grandfather, he didn't know exactly what year he was born in or the date that he was born on. So my grandfather has two birth dates, October 13th and October 27th, because they knew it was somewhere in October. And depending on which lie he was telling to try to get a job because he was underage, he was either born in this year or he was born in this year. There are folks who don't have this, but they have other ways to demonstrate who they are. They should be able to vote. So this whole thing is just about making sure that it is in the Constitution and therefore much harder to challenge or push back when the ACLU or different groups bring lawsuits on behalf of people or challenge this law. It makes it so much harder. It's so much harder when it's enshrined in the Constitution. So people are saying, and I agree, to vote no on that amendment because it also is in response to a big lie that there was a ton of voter fraud. We know that there was not. The Republicans tout out, run that out, have everybody thinking somebody was stealing votes and the ballots was out of pocket, but they've yet to put up credible proof of any of it. Donald Trump built his whole campaign of losing the 2020 election around voter fraud. And remember how everywhere you went all over this country, all Republicans could talk about was voter fraud. And they was putting in bills, and we had a justice pay $1 million to you know, investigate voter fraud in Wisconsin, which was all Robin Voss knew it was a lie when he spent $1 million of taxpayer money. He knew it was a lie then. But to appease Donald Trump, get Trump off his back, shut up this toddler that occupies the White House, he spent $1 million of taxpayer money on a farce of an investigation. And now the person he had tapped to even lead the investigation had been attacking Voss. So that's the other thing. This is being done based on a lie that there is this rampant voter fraud. Republicans lying through their teeth. Just as Scott Walker finally said when Donald Trump was talking about getting Milwaukee and Dane County's ballots because he thought we had cheated somehow or another in Dane County and Milwaukee, the black city and the progressive city. And Scott Walker was like, yeah, don't waste your money on that because Wisconsin has safe elections. I mean, Walker basically admitted there is no rampant voter fraud in Wisconsin. So that's the other thing. Vote no, because this is a part of Trump's narrative about voter fraud that does not exist. I got to take a break. I'll be right back.
Now, back to Say Something Real with your host, Michelle Bryant on WNOV.
All right, family, welcome back to the show. So took a few moments this morning to remind people early voting begins tomorrow, runs through March 29th. There was a question about the referendum. I'm encouraging people to vote no, excuse me, on that referendum because it is trying to address something that's based on a great lie. The fact that there's rampant voter fraud and we got to do everything we can to protect people's vote and the integrity of the system. Republicans is on some straight up BS. I went back and pulled an old article that the Journal Sentinel had done back in 2024 that asked the question how much voter fraud actually occurs in Wisconsin. And they talked about that according to an annual report in 2023, voter fraud happened 36 times out of 4 million eligible voters in the state of Wisconsin. It happened 36 times. And it was a couple of different types of things that were the most consistent. People have voted twice. So they had sent in their ballot, mail in ballot, and then they showed up to vote in person at the polls. Sometimes people will do that because they like, I'm not sure if my ballot made it. And just in case, I'm going to go vote anyway. So that's one. And some people legitimately try to vote twice, but that's one. The other is people with a felony conviction that has not satisfied whatever they need to be able to vote again. And so they go vote. So 23 cases of people with a felony record that shouldn't have been voting that actually ended up voting in the election. That's it. 36 cases. So we got to amend language to the whole Wisconsin state constitution for 36 cases. 36. This is a made up and manufactured issue. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hey, Michelle. This is Denise. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Good morning.
Good morning. I saw you at the play on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
And right, it's good to see you. Hey, Jermaine. Hey, Debo. Anyway, the reason, a couple things. The reason I was calling. First of all, I want to thank you for always breaking down the things on the ballot. A lot of people vote blindly because they don't really know what's what. They go by what's going on the commercials and all that. That's the worst thing to do because we already know the people that's running these commercials are the ones who have the most money.
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, that they're not for us. So I'm glad that you dissect these candidates. You don't tell us who to vote for, but you dissect these candidates. And by the time you're done with that, we know who we should be voting for. But now I have a question about the state superintendent race. I mean, I almost want to put a big X through this race because I am just not sure. Jeff Wright was my guy, and he didn't make it out of the primary.
Okay.
Would it be a safe statement to say if Jill Underly had been more hands-on, MPS would not have been in the shape it was in when Posey was in? Is that a fair statement?
Well, it's a fair. Well, so here's the thing. There is nothing that mandates that Jill Underly has to give certain information to the Milwaukee Public School Board. Okay. She was dealing directly with the superintendent and her department. And, you know, the superintendent is the one that was supposed to be communicating with the school board. So in terms of statute, there's nothing that requires her to do that. And it hadn't been in practice, I guess, is what people are saying. And so it's one of the reasons why she didn't go directly to the school board. But I think at some point when you realize that, you know, the level of frequency that we're having to meet with your team, the stuff is still missing, you flag this for the school board. Like, look, y'all in trouble, you know? So I think that, but make no mistake, MPS's situation in terms of the financial stuff that was off and whatever was going on and the reports not being filed on time, that's an MPS issue. That's that, you know, there's nobody that's responsible for them being late or for them not doing and having these reports done and what they needed to do. Now, she could have definitely like, hey, y'all, you need to get at your boy and talk to your people. because
That's
they're
what. That's how
behind.
I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
don't shift the real blame is NPS.
No,
That's
no,
where the
no.
because it's like somebody
Hmm.
saying, Jermaine robbed the store. Michelle saw him leaving to go rob the store and she didn't stop him. And it's like, but at the end of the day, Jermaine did rob the store,
Right.
so it's
No, I'm
no,
definitely
that's
not.
not even the
I'm
case because I
definitely
have an
not.
obligation to report that. Go ahead. What?
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
that wasn't a
definitely
good example.
not shifting the blame. It's just that why do I want to give you my vote when you wasn't doing your job before?
Because
That's
this
how
is,
I
I think
feel.
for me, because this is where we don't get, for me, I can't get hung up as important as that is on that one thing. I got to look at the
Okay.
totality of it all. And
And you have
so,
said that before.
yeah, that's why I said even the people that are a lot of choice school supporters that are getting behind Brittany Kinzer because they don't like how Jill Underly has handled some of the choice schools in the community. When you look at overall policies, when you look at overall impact, Republicans just don't do well with public education. Right now, with the Department of Education
Yeah.
being dismantled, I think Brittany Kinzer
Yeah.
is on record as saying, like, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Right.
And like,
Exactly.
so all of these services that stand to be jeopardized and impacted. So then what's your plan for that? And Republicans have just demonstrated time and time again, they do not have Black children's best interest at heart. And Jill Underly, while she could have been so much better, she came from a little tiny school district in the first place. She should have never been the state superintendent, based on
Yeah.
experience. But
Mm.
it's still a better outcome for all children than having potentially a
Brittany.
Brittany Kinzer who
Yeah.
will, have, and I'm not saying that she will get in there and do exactly everything that Republicans tell her to do. But the
Hmm.
thing I do understand is you pay attention to who got you there. If
Yeah.
without
That's
Republican
true.
money, Brittany Kinsey don't get there. Without Republicans uplifting her name and helping to put her out there, Brittany Kinsey does not get there. So
Right. Right.
you beholden to who took you to the dance.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to bring up. There's too much things I want to bring up, and then I'll let you guys go on the judges thing. And I do know the judges don't get out and campaign like they should if they don't have an opponent. But if you support a judge, don't just think, well, they don't need my vote because they're going to get in office anyway. Still vote for them because statistical wise, people look at that. There were X amount of registered voters, but this judge only received X amount of votes, because people think, well, they don't have to vote for them, they don't have a candidate running. So if it's a judge on the ballot that you support, still give them your vote.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, and then one last thing about returning the absentee ballot.
Okay.
A lot of people return those ballots through the mail. If I were you, I would either use the drop box or take it to the in-person absentee voting center, the early voting centers. Reason being, when you send it through the mail, there's so many hands it goes through. Either you give it to your mailman or you take it to your neighborhood post office. It leaves there, it goes downtown to the post office. It leaves there, it goes to the post office on Juno, which is the neighborhood post office for City Hall. It leaves there, it goes to the mailroom at City Hall. Then it makes it to the office. But if you use the drop box or if you take it directly to an early voting site, an election commission staff gets those ballots right away, and it's not going through so many hands.
This is true.
So,
for the folks though that can't do that, I will remind you, you can track that ballot online or by calling the election commission too. So if you do mail it and you worry it hasn't arrived, it's not going to get there, you can go online and track your ballot, and it'll tell you where it is in the process, if it's been received or not. You can pick up a phone and call them and say, hey, I mailed in my ballot. Have y'all received it yet? So I do want people to know.
Michelle, but if they mailed their ballot and we don't get it, they can't go to the polls and vote.
So
it's just stuck.
No, I thought that there is something you can do if that ballot, and I'll double check it because I believe there's something that you can do that if that ballot is not showing up yet.
If it's mailed, if you said you mailed it already,
right,
and we don't get it, you don't encourage you to go vote because we can get that ballot on Tuesday, election day, in the
Right.
mail, and we process it. But you at the polls voting, and we don't know you at the polls voting until after the election is over.
Okay. I'm gonna just do a point of clarification with the election commission. I'm gonna see
Yeah,
if I can get Paulina on the phone and find
yeah.
out. But
Because
thank you though. All good
they
information.
have they have those drop lights at every neighborhood library. So it's quite a few of them. But I understand people can't really get there. But that's all. Anyway, thank you so much for all you do. I really appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. With a wealth of
Okay.
information this morning yourself. And look, y'all, since we talking about voting, let me just remind people, flag for folks again. If you have not yet secured your real ID and you are someone that travels, you take a plane, you planning to go out the country, you got to go down to the federal courthouse to do business. That real ID, which has been put off because of COVID enforcement, is now back on the table. And I'm trying to think, the date is like a May date. Let me pull it up real quick. May 7th. Um, we have to have real ID in place by May 7th. And let me just go and do one more look real quick. So yes, it takes effect May 7th. And literally, if you leave this country, but you're not even getting on the plane, if you don't have real ID, and some people are like, well, how do I know if I got real ID? If your driver's license has a little star on it down, up in the right upper hand corner of your license, then you already have real ID. If you don't have that little star, and it's a star, a white star inside of a black circle, Jermaine pulling his out right now.
I'm doing the
It's
same thing.
Yep, it's a white star in the top of a black circle up in the when you're looking at the license in the right hand corner. If you don't have that, you don't have real ID, which means you need to go to the DMV and get an updated driver's license or ID card if you are somebody that's planning to fly, go out of town, you're going on vacation, you're going out the country, or if you got to go down to the federal courthouse to handle any business or go into a federal building that requires ID, you got to have real ID effective May 7th. Yes.
So is it? I thought it was just to fly overseas.
No, it's to get
So
on
it's
a
to fly,
plane.
period.
Period. To have any interaction with the federal government, you got to have a real ID.
Man, it's a setup.
You think so?
I mean, the wow. Okay,
So if you got a passport, you can still fly, get in and out of federal buildings,
I get
whatever.
it. But what I'm
If
saying
you
is,
don't have a passport, you're gonna need real ID.
but what I'm saying is, if I have a driver's license in my pocket, it was approved by the federal government.
Right.
So why do I need to get the
Well, it was
same
approved by the
license?
state.
Well, it was
Yeah,
approved by the
Wisconsin.
state, but you can use it in. I mean, you can fly
Yeah.
and
Currently,
things like
but
that, right?
once this goes into effect, you won't be able to.
I know, but what I'm saying is, what's the difference from the ID I already got in my pocket? Besides the little star that's in the corner, if there's no purpose behind getting everybody to lock into these IDs, because I already got a legal driver's license, I already got a legal identification that identifies who I am. So why now all of a sudden, which
Does this
there's
become more of a federal database,
I get it,
or what's
but
the purpose?
there's a deeper reason behind it that they really not exposing to us.
But no, because one of the things that they said was that so this number one is there had been no national way to monitor all of this. Every state did their own thing. So when I applied for my driver's license in Wisconsin, the steps that I take to get a driver's license in Wisconsin can be
Right.
different from Wyoming, from
Right.
somewhere else. So in terms of national security, the feds came in and said, look, we want to make sure at the very least these minimum things have all been verified and checked on a license.
I get it, but what I'm saying is, if I got my license here, right?
Mhm.
If I drive in Florida and get pulled over, my license is in the national database. my information is in that national database.
But it may not still contain all the information that the feds are looking for. So this all is based off of 9/11. The 9/11 Commission recommended that we tighten up knowing who's who. So again, the things that give me a valid driver's license in Wisconsin can be a little different in Georgia, in Mississippi. So let's just say I want questions A, B, C, D, and F as the federal government answer. In Georgia, y'all may only ask questions A, B, C. In Mississippi, you got A, C, D. So y'all can do different ways to process the information to be able, everybody don't ask for the exact same information. That's what they found out from the 9/11 Commission. And there are some basic things we need, minimum standards we need all states to ask. Everybody, like just like once the Department of Education goes out of business, every state won't have the same requirements for graduation.
Right.
Every state won't have. So they're saying we needed some uniformity.
So it take you 24 years?
So what happened was, and I'm trying to, when it first, so it got, let me see when it became law.
So I think it was like 3 years
Because
ago.
it has been pushed back for 5 for
Yeah.
sure because of COVID.
Yeah. So I know that they was talking about it, but my thing is, again, the information that I'm gonna give you is gonna be the same information I would give.
So Real ID didn't pass Congress until 2005. Okay. And then because of all of the different stuff that people had to do to get their systems changed over to be in compliance. Let me see when it was originally. So it was originally supposed to start in 2008. And it had been delayed a number of times for a number of different reasons. So so it got passed in 2005. It was originally supposed to be started in 2008. States were pushing back because they had to adapt their system. It was expensive to do the changeover to whatever they had to have, and then tap that into the federal database. So there were some technical things that made it problematic for a lot of people because the states just was like, we don't want to do it, and it's going to cost us money. And so finally the federal government put their foot down and said, okay, you ain't got to do it. You ain't got to break your neck. But let me tell you what will happen, because what we got control of at the federal level, you won't be getting your butt on no plane because we control federal, aviation. You won't be coming in the federal courthouse. So you drag your feet, you let your people keep their regular license. They can have them. They can vote with them. They can do whatever they want to. But if you're getting on a U.S. Plane, if you're interacting with a federal agency and we need ID, if you don't have a passport, if you don't have that ID with that star on it, which meant that all of the minimum questions we want to answer got addressed, you ain't getting it.
Michelle, I noted on my current license, it said not for federal purposes.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean,
how long ago did you get that license printed? When was that issue? Look at your
Moses was 3 years old when that happened.
Huh?
Moses was 3 when he got his license.
Bedrock,
though. He got his license from Bedrock DMV.
You stupid. What day was it issued?
I don't know.
1963.
Dude, it's 2 dates. It's right there.
Yeah. So he don't want to tell us.
No, I just want the date it was issued.
I'm looking for the issue date. They got
700
It's 2 dates on there. The issue date is right above it.
700 BC.
And they got your name and ribbon. It's all kind of little safety things on here. I'm looking for the.
So what about the kids that's in school, that's in college, that's from, like, say for instance, and I'm gonna use my son. He's in school in Mississippi. He don't get out until.
Oh, I got it in January of 24.
Yeah, I was gonna say you had to get that recently for it to say not for federal purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that BC?
And 80? I'm mad because in January 24, somebody should have told you while you here, just go and get real ID.
Right.
Just go and get real. They should have did that. But okay, so you said your son.
So you said, man, that this go into effect when?
May 7th.
I think he get out of school after that, so he got to fly home. So what about those?
He gonna need real ID.
But in order to get that,
if he got a passport, he can use that. But he'd have to he has to go to wherever his home state DMV is to go get real ID.
He got to drive.
He got to come home. I mean, because this is the
Michelle,
thing too.
will that hold true? I know planes, but what about trains or any mass transportation?
Only if it's federal. You
Okay.
know, if it's connected. So like if it's a privately run entity, Amtrak, whatever, that's not federally run.
But
If it's
anything that's
federally run,
flying.
but if he gonna fly, he got to come home and get that ID.
That's crazy.
Yep. And then this is the thing, and it's gonna feel kind of rushed, and people gonna be anxious, like, but this been around, this conversation. I remember having this conversation so many times on the radio. And I would tell people, okay, y'all, the date's been pushed back, particularly during COVID. Date's been pushed back, but go ahead and get it.
So why they just don't give it to you when you apply for your new license
What
or your new
and
ID?
some people have told me that they have been at the DMV and were renewing or getting whatever, and people told them like, just go ahead and get the real ID right now.
I've never had nobody tell me that.
So let me ask you: is there going to be any cost associated with updating that license?
Yes,
too?
it's $14 if you have a driver's license. It's $16 if you have just the ID.
State issued ID.
Yep.
Hey, the one that just go ahead and send me the start in the mail, man. I put it on my license.
Yeah, that might defeat the purpose.
It
They
save
will
money,
not
man.
be sending you
Go ahead and send me the star in the mail, man.
Somebody said, let's see, Michelle, we have to have this real ID, meaning while the federal government FAA has planes falling out of the sky, and Musk and Trump are talking about selling and closing federal buildings. Who knew? Yeah. So I mean, like I said, I have been talking about it and trying to bring it up, but it is now finally here, and I can't imagine there would be any unforeseen reason why it would get extended again. But that's the case right now. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hey, Michelle, this is Dion calling back.
Hey, Dion.
I received my new ID in July of 2023, and when I went to the counter, I went to the one over there on Titonia. I said, I want the new ID with the star. They said, we do that anyway. So maybe it may depend on which DMV that Debo went to.
Yeah.
That could have something to do with it because maybe not all the clerks know.
And I think that might have been part of it because, like I said, I know some people have said when they went to go renew their license,
they said they do
people
it.
said, look, just go and get the real ID, now, So I don't know if it was an additional cost at that time or when you renewed, it just was automatic. I mean, it was the regular price because you were renewing.
You know what's crazy?
And but yes, Dion, you're right. There were some people that were told by clerks to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, but this expires in 2031.
Thank you.
So they should have said at that point in time,
Yeah.
You may as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it's valid here in the state. You can do whatever you want to. But again, if you flying, that joker won't get you on no plane.
I have never really looked at this ID. There are a lot of.
It's a whole bunch of security elements on there.
I see my face in another place that I never even noticed before.
Yeah, it's a ton of security elements on there. Yes, Jermaine.
I was just gonna rib Debo, but I'm gonna leave it alone.
This dude right there.
Okay. All right. So let's move out. We covered some local stuff, and there's tons of local stuff we need to get to. I'll talk about stuff over the course of the week. The new superintendent for MPS is in office now.
Oh, Michelle, I wanted to share this with you quickly. I don't know
Yes.
if you can hear me. According to one of the folks who are chiming in, says Dr. Jill Underly is having a meeting with the NAACP on March 19th, and Brittany Kinzer declined the invite.
Yeah, okay. I'm just gonna say day late, dollar short. Better, what am I trying to say? Better late than never. But I remain frustrated. With the way a lot of this is being done, and I think she's gonna mess around and be at the house for real. Let me take a break. I'll be right back.
Donald Trump is out of control, stopping payments for healthcare and food for hungry kids, eliminating the Department of Education, and letting Elon Musk access your most private information. Now Trump and Musk are backing Brad Schimmel because they know he'll let them do whatever they want. Not Judge Susan Crawford. She'll be the check and balance we need to protect us from Trump when he goes too far. That's why we need Judge Susan Crawford on the Supreme Court.
All right, family, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. Last half hour. Okay, so we did a lot of talk this morning on technical stuff. That's okay. We'll get to a lot of the highline foolishness that is happening in the country right now. But let me just say this because I'm being petty. I'm being petty. I admit I'm being petty. Today, March 17th, is St. Patrick's Day. Okay. And the first reference that we see to people celebrating St. Patrick's Day goes back to the 7th century in Ireland. Okay. People believe that St. Patrick was a saint But he was also a part. This is what Irish people believe. He was a part of God's final judgment of Irish people when they died. Over the years, St. Patrick has become strongly identified with Ireland and would become one of its three patron saints, along with St. Bridget and St. Columba. First St. Patrick's Day parade on record was held in St. Augustine, Florida in 1601. That's how long this goes back. 1601. But most people definitely associated with the Irish. So if DEI is out, why are we celebrating St. Patrick's Day today? Because it singles out one particular ethnicity. If we're not doing anything to promote individuality, to promote uniqueness about cultures, to celebrate what's special about these different groups and individuals, why is everybody supposed? Why Chicago just turned the water green again this year? St. Patrick's Day don't fall under DEI?
Well, I can answer that one.
Go ahead.
It's the complexion. It's the complexion.
What's the whole thing that Mooney say? Paul
It's the
Mooney
protection
said?
for the complexion. That's what it is. It's the protection for the complexion.
Let me pull that one out.
He was on Dave Chappelle. Yeah. That's
Paul Mooney
exactly
was,
what it is.
Let me see.
That's exactly what it is, because the majority of them is
the complete. I'm listening because he got. I wish I could play this kid, but you can't. He's so out of order.
Oh, hilarious!
But let me see if he says it here without cursing. Because I remember when he was talking about Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
And he was saying, the complexion, because I knew it was three.
Yeah.
It's the complexion for the protection for the collection.
Yeah.
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 And so, Paul.
Yeah. And that's what's going on.
Oh, my God. So Michelle's Moment of Petty, brought to you by A&J Liquor.
A&J Liquor, listen here. Know your history. But listen, that just pulled me back to the conversation I was having with people when, Trump was saying that all of these illegal immigrants are coming and they're taking black people jobs. And when you really break it down and think about it, you're firing black people that got good jobs in the government, and it's almost like you're
the only people taking
them.
Black jobs right now is white people.
Yeah, that's
Donald
the point
Trump
that I'm getting
and
at.
Elon Musk.
That's the point.
Only people taking black jobs right now is white people.
Yep, because he's trying to take us to that point of black jobs supposed to be serving and cleaning. And
that's where I need you.
And everything like that. Because if we're telling the truth, he's crying so hard about illegal immigrants, but he had them working for him at his establishment.
If you go to Mar-a-Lago, one of the people that was helping him move the boxes around was a person, I believe, that was Mexican. But all you see is Mexicans and folks minorities working in his hotels and his golf clubs.
Man, they did the whole interview with these people. Asked them if Trump knew that they was illegal. They said yes. They had uniforms, paycheck stubs. He's paying these people pennies on the dollar because he can do that with them. So now you want to get rid of them and put black people in those jobs. When they was already having good paying jobs, they was already having jobs that can take care of their family. But you want to fire them from those jobs and put them underneath the white man's feet.
The hypocrisy of all of it, as this man talks about shuttering an additional 7 agencies. He has targeted agencies that deal with homelessness. He has targeted federal agencies that deal with libraries, with the media. like literally just taking an axe to all of these. And they are saying within the next 7 days, we will know what other agencies that he is coming after. He went after the U.S. Agency for Global Media. This is the parent company of Voice of America, as well as the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars in the Smithsonian Institute of Museum and Library Sciences. Why would you be trying to shut down the Institute of Museum and Library Services? Why would you be? Why? This is the agency that supports libraries, archives, and museums in every state. Why would you be coming for that?
Makes no sense.
He already dismantled the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness. This agency is working to prevent and end homelessness in the United States. Why would you close that? Why would you shutter that? He went after the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, an agency focused on preventing, minimizing, and resolving work stoppages and labor disputes. Well, we know why you would do that. See, that's why when all the folks are jumping up and down, oh, he's a businessman, he's a businessman. Businessmen protect businessmen. They don't protect workers. Businessmen protect businessmen. They don't protect workers. So what does he do? He's already dismantled it. The Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service. The Community Development Financial Institutions Fund, CDFIs. We hear about them all the time from the folks that come in from different banks and different organizations, which aims to expand economic opportunity for underserved communities. And he sought to dismantle the Minority Business Development Agency, which promotes growth of minority-owned business. So again, Meech, Mexicans taking black jobs. But here you got Donald Trump dismantling the agencies that were put in place to help minority-owned, disadvantaged-owned businesses be able to compete, to get off the ground, to figure out what they needed to do to remain viable. You need to understand that. Dude, you talk super loud. Hey, bro, you talk super loud. You talking like you at the house. I can't even hear. But I'm just saying. So that was an excellent point that Jermaine makes. You did all this hooping and hollering about the essays, the Mexicans, the La Razas gonna take black jobs, but the only people taking black jobs right now is 2 white boys. Donald Trump and Elon Musk races behind. That's who we had to worry about. While they wanted you to pivot, worry about the Mexican roofers that just put this roof on these 2 houses over here in 24 hours.
Like
and they painted it. Yeah, they painted it in another 12 hours and got, porches up. Be mad with them.
Oh, man.
While these white boys is cutting down whole agencies of family supporting wages. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening? Hello?
Oh, hi. Hey, how you doing? This is John.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
Okay. Let me try to represent. Okay. Jobs through taxes are not real jobs. I understand at the time it's a good job because it's paying the guy who's getting paid through the taxes. All that money came out of a job that could have been in the private sector by these evil businessmen who have to hire people. So when you take money from the private sector, you're putting it into these aristocratic jobs where people...
But wait. Let me back up so I can make sure I understand. So are you saying that jobs were for the federal government?
Any government job is taken out of the private sector taxes going into the government job. And so then blacks become habitually, like you say, dependent on these government jobs.
We're dependent on a job no matter where we work. Whether I work for the... Hang on. Because whether I work for the federal government or I work for a privately owned business, I'm still dependent either way.
Correct. You're right. Yeah, I don't mean to say... Yes, you're correct. So the question is, which is the most efficient way for you and your people, black people, to get better?
You know what it has been? It has been the federal government, because there were laws in place to reduce discrimination, to fairly promote people, systems by which people got moved based on merit, seniority, X, Y, and Z. And in private companies, we frequently were not being allowed in the C-suite, not being allowed in management positions, didn't have a ton of recourse when we were discriminated against. That's why a lot of Black people have worked for the federal government, because it was a fairer system.
I get that. That makes sense from the perspective of what it was when it started, and now you have to compare what is the available resources and what would happen if there was more private sector jobs. They would compete for you just as in the areas where you've dominated, where the creative sources.
But the reality is we still need people to work for the federal government.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So then those agencies you listed off. Now the one about, library and stuff, that kind of archives, that's different. But you listed several that are actually social service type philosophy jobs that have a very progressive bias.
There's not a progressive bias when we say that we know historically minority-owned businesses have been systemically and intentionally put at a disadvantage. And so we are creating agencies to provide redress or to be able to help those groups. How was that? That's not this is not a handout of welfare. Number one, this country has never made right what they did to Black folks in relationship to slavery. Never.
Yeah.
They've never paid.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm not saying that what you said a second ago is wrong. I'm not saying that you're wrong, that the society bulldozed Black people. Obviously, there's no better word than, you've picked good words well. So the point is, how do you get the economy to be so excellent that it draws people in the way, say, Jackie Robinson.
Wait, say that part again.
How to make the private sector so booming that it draws people in from the margins, like the last hired first fired a couple of minutes ago. You were talking about
the private sector is not set up to do that. The private sector is set up to make individual to increase individual wealth. These companies, when given the opportunity to pay people fairly, many of them choose not to do that. That's why we see the disparity between what the CEO makes and what, the bottom line, frontline staff make at an organization be so outrageous. You got bonuses based on the ability to lay off, trim employment and get rid of employees and double more work on other people. These companies are not set up. That's why trickle-down economics didn't work. It wasn't that, I'm making money, now let me go out and share the love and spread the wealth. That's not how these people think who run this. They are accountable to their shareholders, stockholders. They are worried about their own, personal bottom line. They are trying. That's why so many jobs got shipped overseas. American companies had the ability to do the right thing. What did they do? They took their jobs overseas where they could continue to take advantage of low wage workers and not provide health care. They got you in a role called an LTE, working damn near 40 hours a week, but they let you work 38, so you're not eligible for health care. These companies are not designed that we all benefit. Hello? I think we lost the call. But I'm just sorry. Number one, there needs to be a central place in which some of this stuff is organized. Social Security, Medicaid should not be left to individual states. We already see what people will do. Texas is racist as hell. When you talk about the EPA, all of the different pollution and the stuff that's happening in Texas right now, Texas has helped to create some of that foolishness. But because they are beholden to big business, they are willing to forego safety of their residents so that these people continue to make money. The federal government, number one, just by virtue of proximity, DC was called Chocolate City for a reason, because a number of Black people that live in that area. So if the government is located in the hood, you're going to get a whole bunch of Black people working there. The hood is in the backyard of the White House. It's all right there. But there's no way many of these Black people who are making six figures working for the federal government get to do that in a lot of these private companies. That's why in so many private companies. Black people. All, you know what our role is? Vice President of Outreach, Vice President of Community Relations, Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Vice President of anything that don't make a real decision. That could be the bottom line of a company. So you're not the CEO, you're not the COO, you're not the CFO. You're none of them O's. You're none of them. Private businesses, which were telling black folks how to show up in the workplace. Don't wear your hair natural. Your face must be clean shaven, black men. Even though most of y'all as black men can't shave your face every day. Donald Trump, a private businessman, said to his people, I don't want no black men or black people handling my money at them casinos. So they all knew. Don't be hiring no black accountants. Don't be hiring no black people in them casinos to handle the money at the cages. He did everything he could to be as racist as he could about who he wanted to interact with, interface with his money. The federal government has been a lifeline by way of people of color and marginalized groups being treated fairly. Children with disabilities are able to go to school because of the work done by the federal government, because individual school districts and individual states had them kids sitting at the house on the porch. They didn't want to accommodate them. Just like a lot of these choice and private schools, they get to decide if they want a kid with a disability to come to their school or not. They literally get to legally discriminate against some children. Public education does not. And understand this too. Most people that work in the public sector are woefully underpaid in comparison to if they did that exact same job in the private sector. The governor of the state of Wisconsin makes less money than the Milwaukee Public Schools superintendent. The mayor of the city of Milwaukee makes less money. That woman getting ready to make $320,000. That's coming in as the MPS superintendent. The governor of the state of Wisconsin, how much Tony Evers make? Like 180 or some mess? I think they said if you put her salary, Tony Evers' salary and the mayor of Milwaukee's salary together, it would equal $320,000. Now imagine if you're the CEO of a state, CEO of a city, CEO even of that school district, and you go work in the private sector. How much you think the president of Miller Brewing or Coors make? That person makes millions of dollars. It was many a day. I understood that as a chief of staff, what I was making 100 and some thousand for at the state. If I worked in the private sector, I'd be making $300,000 or $400,000 if I could get people to pay me fairly. I would be making $500,000. So that's the other thing. We don't pay people what they worth when they work at the state or for public institutions. We don't. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening? Hello? Okay. All right. Hey, Keith, how you doing this morning? What did he do?
Sign language.
Did he do that thumb mess? You're the most irritating. Dude, he is not hilarious. Do not laugh at him. He is irritating. So, we got that. Let me get the caller in. Hey, caller, what's happening? Hello?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I just wanted to point out something. You know that white guy that just called?
Yes.
He gets me because he represents all those white people who've never been black. Never been black, yet he's going to tell us what's good for us.
Yeah.
And every time you checked him, he agreed with you with the check, and then he went right back to telling us what's best for us.
Right.
But here's one thing he left out of that whole equation. it's our tax money supporting the jobs at the federal level if the federal government does it, or it's our tax money if the federal government farms it out to private contractors. It's still our tax money. So, I mean, I get tired of these so-called do-gooder white people that have never been black trying to get into our conversations and tell us what we should know and what we should do. So,
all right.
Have a good day.
Caller. And
Take care, sis.
Yep, I appreciate it. And that certainly was the impact. Whatever the intent was, the impact was just what the caller said he felt, because I felt the same way. That individuals that have not had to do this struggle, have not been denied access and opportunity, have had doors closed in their face, have been discriminated against because your name sounded different on an application, being told you got a better chance in the private sector, when frequently the data does not support that. It does not support that. Am I done or am I breaking? Why is my show ending 10 minutes early? This is ridiculous. It's 8:49, man. Y'all got 10 minutes worth of commercials. Y'all get ready to run. Because I hear this when I go in the community, and if my phone was in front of me right now, why is your show ending 10 minutes early? Call station management. His name is Darren DeBow. He's at the first line of defense. Call him. All right. With that being said,
throw me under.
Yeah, under the bus.
why not? Why not? Why not?
I guess you the new treadmill.
It better be 10 minutes worth of commercials.
It better be.
It better be. All right. I'm getting ready to get out of here. You see, I don't care about my job.
Right.
Yeah. Mine either.
What time is the union meeting?
Right.
I'm just saying, because I'm sure gonna hear it. I already know the top 3 that's getting ready to text me. What are y'all doing? Whose new policy is this? It's not my policy, y'all.
Mike policy. That's Mike policy.
You know what? Turn my mic off so I can say what I'm gonna say. All right, family. I appreciate it. Talk to y'all tomorrow.
Say something real.